Well, everybody's here and we're right on time. I'd like to call this meeting to order with a roll call of member here, and I'll start with Andrew Herlihy,
Andrew's here.
Dana,
Here.
Andrea,
Here.
Kevin,
I'm here.
TJ,
Here.
and Eli Powell. Yay. Excellent. So we're all here. Number 2 on the agenda, has everybody had a chance to read the meeting minutes? And if so, everybody likes it, I'll accept a vote to approve. Or
So moved.
a motion to approve, sorry. Wrong word.
Second.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So again, a roll call to approve, starting with Andy.
Yep.
Dana. Dana?
Yes.
Just say yes, okay. And Andrea?
Yes.
Kevin? Yes?
For some
Kevin?
reason I got dropped there. I'm back.
Okay, you're back. And he
Okay.
says yes. Anthony Salvestano, yes?
No, Anthony's not video. Yes.
Sorry, wrong one. Wrong
Wrong
lawyer.
lawyer.
Wrong lawyer. Sorry, Eli. Yes. Okay. So the next item is
Oh, wait a second. Do you want me to take minutes at this meeting or is somebody else doing it?
oh, thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate it. You did such a great job. If you wouldn't mind, that would be great.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Andrew, was that a voluntary?
He
No.
is so good. He is so good. And so roll call, everybody's here today. Everybody
Got
accepted
it.
the meeting minutes, so unanimous on both votes there, Andrea.
And it was TJ seconded by Kevin.
I believe so.
Yes.
Good enough. Okay. Thank you.
Excellent.
I think
Thank
we
you.
should have I think we should have an odd even secretarial duty for minutes.
Okay.
If anybody's offering to be the even person.
I would be the even, huh? Be the even person.
Thank you, Dana.
Oh, man, we love you both. Thank you. Now, Dartmouth TV does record these meetings, so you're always entitled to grab those recordings if you so wish. So that's just a function of asking Dartmouth TV for the recordings at this particular session. So number 3 on the agenda today is the leadership change. I would like to step down as chair, and the next in line was Andy, but we've talked and he is very busy. I understand completely. Oh, there he is now. And the next in line is Kevin, and I'd like to make sure that Kevin has a smooth transition. Anything I can do to help him be chairman, that would be great, Kevin. So I think it's good to have a policy where for a year, people get to be chair and then it rotates through. That way everyone doesn't get stuck with one particular role, and you can learn a lot by being closer to the harbor master and chairmanship as we go forward. So congratulations, Kevin.
Is that an ask? I guess.
Well, I'm asking you, if you don't want to do it, then I'll go down the list.
No, I'll agree to do that. Thank you.
Okay.
You probably need a vote,
You probably need a vote for that.
a
Yeah.
a motion and a vote.
Okay, then a motion and a vote.
Roger, do you want to make the motion that you just did?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that I step down as chair and Kevin becomes chair at this particular point in time.
And is there a time limit on that, did you say?
I would like approximately 1 year's term of chairmanship, as we discussed last year. So that's the motion.
I second it.
Thank you. Motion and second. Could I have a vote starting with Andrew,
Yes.
then Dana,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes,
Kevin,
Yes.
TJ,
Yes.
and Eli.
Eli
Yeah.
with us?
Yes. Okay, great. So that is all unanimous, and thank you very much for that. And I don't know. how to-
Roger, just to go back over what we had discussed that year ago for others to join us.
Yes,
If I remember correctly, we decided it was easier to not stick one person with the job forever until they didn't want it anymore. And we would rotate through, but you would also have the ability to decline to do it if you didn't want to do it or didn't have the time to commit to
that
it.
is correct. And that is exactly what has happened here. Had a nice chat with Andy, and I completely understand. Andy's got grants, he's working CBC, he's got a jobby job, and he's also getting really involved with the yacht club. So I totally get it. Now, anybody going forward, if they don't want to do it or they want to do it, I think this is a very fluid thing. But I did want to have it be a period of time, about a year, so people could go through the chairmanship and help and learn and better understand what's going on. Plus, keeps everybody a little bit fresh. I personally think that's a very healthy way to run a committee.
I do too, as long as it isn't, so people understand it isn't compulsory. But those who
Right.
have a little bit more
Right.
time.
Right.
do a
This
little
is
bit
our
more.
suggested list, but however, we know stuff comes up. Now, for example, one of the reasons I'd like to step down is both of my daughters are living in Los Angeles. One has been asked to leave her house because it's about to burn down. So Margot and I are gonna probably go out there with our toolkit and help the kids out there. So, I mean, stuff does happen. I totally get that.
Okay.
Anyway, Kevin, your chair now officially. Would you like to proceed on with number 4?
We need a vice chair.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. We could do a little housekeeping. We might get a vice chair, yes.
Okay. Well, then, quite honestly, the next in line is TJ.
I don't have a problem serving. I'd like to pass to people who have a little bit more time. I'm still working up in Worcester, and for the time being, don't have a whole lot of extra time. But the vice chair
Okay.
position doesn't really do much.
Again, we understand completely. And it's my understanding the next person in line is it Steve? Is it Dana?
Dana, yeah.
Dana.
That's- yeah.
Okay. Dana, would you like to be vice chair?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'll make a motion that Dana is vice chair. Can we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Kevin, thank you. And then just to make it official, I'll just run through the vote list again, which is Andy,
Yep.
Dana. Yes. And Andrea,
yes,
Kevin,
Yes.
TJ,
Yes.
and Eli.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. So, superb. Kevin, you are chair. Dana, you are vice chair. This is where I drop the mic and walk off the stage.
Ah,
Kevin, I'd like to leave it as your meeting for the next items, if you will.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Roger for the time that he's put in as chairman. Certainly, Waterways has moved up a notch under his chairmanship, and I hope to continue moving things along. Okay, number 4 on the agenda is the DEP Waterways has joined town petition as requested by the Board of Health Director. I guess that's just a bit of information, or does anyone have anything to add to that?
Andrea gave us an update today, which you can explain if you would like.
sure. I'm just checking. Okay. I heard from Chris Mashad that he got the last signature page from another town board. I don't know which one. But he said planning board was being requested to join. And he's going to send the petition out this week. The second issue that isn't on the agenda, but it was a subtext to that Christmas shot discussion last week, which was that sampling, water quality sampling is moving forward. He's having discussions with the regulators because he wants to prepare a quality assurance program plan to ensure that the sampling is done in a way that's acceptable to the regulating community.
Okay, I guess moving along, item 5 on the agenda is the SEC grant rejection, dinghy racks improvements. Subtext, what do we do with the $9,000 CPC match and identify alternative sources for $45,000? So, Steve, is that going to be in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, I'm required to give quarterly updates to the Community Preservation Committee on any grant that they've approved. Right now, to my knowledge, we have their matching grant for the marina work undergoing. I've given them an update on that. That is moving rapidly. We'll get to that. But I also had to report to Community Preservation that Seaport Economic Council did not award our grant to replace the dinghy racks. So where Community Preservation was designated a matching grant against the anticipated Seaport Economic Council grant, what do we do? And I'm not sure the amount there is right. Did we request 45,000 from Seaport, or was it 50?
I'm not exactly sure. I have to go through my notes for that. I have that number, but regardless,
way,
it was one of the
either way, we don't have the main source, the main amount of funding. We don't have it in retained earnings based on a report that I got yesterday. But what we do have hanging in the wings, so to speak, is $14,000 warrant article that was pending for repairs generally to the landing, dinghy rack, dock. That warrant article is out there. I don't know that combining those two would be permissible. In other words, $9,000 is more than 20% of a $14,000 grant. So I don't know that they would allow that. And I don't know that we could do anything with just 25,000 when we needed 50. I guess we could replace half of them. And I'm not sure if that would even be half because of the economics of scale. But so I don't know any other source that we would get the $45,000 or $50,000 to match the $9,000 against and do that dinghy rack replacement this year. So I put it on there and leave that open.
Okay,
Would
I think that fair.
they
fair
be
enough.
willing to free the $9,000 up for repair and replacement, or does it have to be matched to another grant no matter what?
I don't know because I didn't want to ask that before we had a discussion. I don't know that what they'd be. This is a grant, you may remember, that we had to, along with the marina, we had to provide some kind of memorandum of understanding. It went back, there was more work done on this match than there probably was on the Seaport grant. So that there was some reluctance in the beginning to give us the money. I don't know that now they would give us that amount for just repairs of what's there. Certainly warranted, but we as a committee, Waterways Commission, could request that the $9,000 be repurposed for stabilization of what's there. And I don't know if they would favorably vote that or not. I don't know if having some of our own money in a warrant article that's pending would help as well or not, but that's an option. Or we wait and see how the marina works out and then revisit the dinghy racks next fall. But
I think that would be something to consider, just see how the marina plays out what the participation is and what the needs would be, we could potentially maybe add a kayak rack or two to the floats as they're being built. So that might take a little pressure off the dinghy racks, because I notice there's quite a few kayaks over there that are really taking up the big spaces that we can certainly consolidate that quite a bit. So I think Steve's suggestion of a wait and see attitude is okay. Steve, would you be for should this dock building be go ahead and as it's finished up, would we want to request the crane to possibly lift those newer racks over into a better position and kind of readjust the better stuff over there, if they've got a reasonable rate to do that, or is that something that?
I'm not sure that, I mean, that's something that could be done with forklifts. They have
Yep.
that capacity too, and so does
Pioneer.
Pioneer. In last year, I did hire Pioneer to repair two of the racks that we needed for last summer,
Okay.
and they did that reasonably. I don't know that lifting any of the old ones certainly would not work. They'd fall apart.
Yeah.
Not sure how lifting any of the new ones, how they might
Well,
work
those
out.
I'm confident those would stand up. That was,
Yeah, that might be easier to move those with the lull that Pioneer has than
Okay.
just a suggestion. But yeah, we can certainly ask if they're willing to do it.
mhm.
Talk about repositioning them where they are, but just lining them up a little better.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
maybe moving them closer to the ramp actually, so that they're in a little bit better location to launch the dinghy out of.
Well, the problem is there's really no room on that end. We'd have to get rid of an existing rack to move
Right,
those
that's
back
right.
there.
Should
And
we have?
those have the higher metal bars. That's why we put them on that end, so they wouldn't block anybody's view. They like to park and watch what goes on
Yeah.
in the water.
Well, if there's a dinghy in the slot, the view I think is marginal. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's something we could discuss later.
Sure.
All right, I guess we'll move on to the next item. We have an update for the marina and dock expansion update.
Hey,
If I can-
before we move on that,
Sure.
maybe a suggestion that we just leave it in Steve's hands to do what he sees fit on repositioning them to, give us the maximum benefit out of it.
Sure.
Rather than we have to have a meeting to have, he might have to make a snap decision that we can't get together on that quickly.
I think he can handle that authority with no problem at all.
Sure.
Sorry to dump it back on your shoulders, but it's probably
No.
easier. If somebody says I've got a forklift over there and I'm ready to go, where do you want these things? I want you to be able to do it.
Yeah, no, that's how we get it done. That's how.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
right.
If I
All
could
right.
ask a point of
Andrea.
clarification.
I'm sorry.
Where's the what's the $14,000?
I don't, not long ago, but a couple of years back at a town meeting, we pulled out of our retained earnings an amount of money. I believe it was $14,500. It is specific and earmarked for dinghy rack, landing area updates, upgrades. That was when we thought we were going to have to repair, and before we went for the replacement. So that money is still pending in a warrant article, and it would be available for the dinghy rack repair. We could replace one or two of them, I think, at that price, but certainly not the full project that we were looking at.
That strikes me as something that you should consider moving forward on.
I agree.
Agree.
$14,000 can get you a couple dinghy docks replaced, right?
I
And
wanna try-
maybe put some kayak racks in instead.
I'm also, with my first move would be to ask CPC if we can leverage that 14.5 against their 9. I don't know that that's enough. I don't know if it certainly would be a means of grabbing the 9 and putting our 14.5. Now we're up in the 20. We're at the halfway mark.
Yeah.
So
Steve, is there a deadline on using that 14,000?
no,
Okay.
So we couldn't use it for truck
Right.
tires. It's got to be.
Understand. Okay.
There's deadline
Well,
on that.
Anybody have anything further on this issue?
Can you move forward on asking CPC? So we have more to discuss next
Sure.
time?
I
See
wanted us
what we
to
can
have,
do. If
I-
if they say, okay, see what we can do with 23,000.
when I reported back to CPC that we did not get the SEC grant, I told them I was going to ask for discussion that we just had, and I would get back to them. And I can ask.
All right, Steve, everybody, we all set with this item?
Yes.
All right, next we have the Marina Dock expansion update, press release, local news story, marina assignments, dimensions, and rates. Steve, we're back to you, please.
The local newspaper has done a great story, letting people know what's going on down there. Quite frankly, the whole thing was delayed, and between Christmas and New Year's, everything just started taking shape, and the barge came in, the crane came in. We had 60-mile-an-hour gusts, and they were still driving piles, pinpoint accuracy. So it looks like it's going to be done well in advance of this season, probably by the end of February, but I'm not going to hold them to that. We've seen ice form and disappear. We've seen almost hurricane force winds, and that didn't stop them. Today, they were tearing up the old pier deck, and they'll be raising that section up and then laying down the entire new deck. The piles are already in for the new section. So if you go down there and look at it, you're looking at the full extent of the pier. When I left this morning, they were unloading the floats that were built off-site, and those will be attached probably this week, if not next. So we're getting there.
Excellent.
Go
I
ahead.
can hear him banging away.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And we've got a February 1 deadline.
No, I think it's the last day of February, but I think they're anticipating and being ahead of that. So I'd have to check, but I thought it was February 28th.
Do we have a hard plan now to do some advertising, or whether we're going to do a lottery or what the rates are going to be? I think that's something that we have to settle expeditiously, and because I'm
Yes.
confident, as you are, that the timeline is going to be met and will be available to go by May 1st.
We do not have a hard and fast plan, and I've been telling everybody that's asked and interested in it that I can't give them a site, or I can't make an assignment, or even have a lottery for assignments until we have something to offer. Now it looks like the project is going to be done. So I think it's time to move on to the allocation and our assignment of whatever number of spots we've got, and then figure out what they're going to cost. So that's something that I don't think I should do in a vacuum, but I'll hear from you guys on that.
I think we could set up a little subgroup of a couple of people to join you, and maybe get an as-built plan that's in the works, and figure out how it's going to be divided up and what the rates are, and we would propose that at our next meeting. Preliminarily to that, we could maybe get some kind of advertisement out that we fully expect slips to be available as of May 1st, and that how that'll be done is going to be coming forward very shortly. So maybe in a news release with a picture of what's going on over there, and that we intend to make the deadline, and I think that would be good. So if we could have a member or two of the group who would like to meet with Steve and kind of figure out how that's going to be divvied up and what a proposed rate might be. So for the next meeting, we'll have something to vote on. If we have a volunteer, I would volunteer to be on that committee. And if we have anybody else, yes, Roger.
As I was telling the group earlier, I just got my bill from South Wharf for my 10-foot dinghy on a dock at South Wharf was $840 for the season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a data point, and I'm happy to work on the committee. I was looking at my notes from before. We played with all kinds of numbers for seasonal slip money. So I'm happy to set up an Excel spreadsheet and put that all together and do that. There's no reason though that we shouldn't charge a good amount of money. This is going to be a very nice, convenient place to park your 17-foot whaler or your dinghy or whatever. Now we did cut back the length of the end dock, so we have limited dinghy space at this time. But if we can make this viable and sustainable, there's no reason we couldn't expand in the future, which we have every right to under our
Right.
ruling.
Mhm.
Yes.
Maybe the way to go, if I may suggest, is that perhaps we circulate our final layout and what we think we're going to have for spaces, and back ourselves into it a little bit that way. You know, are we going to have a graduated rate? Meaning, if you've got a smaller boat, does it pay more than a bigger one, or vice versa, or whatever? Because we got to get to a carrying capacity price wise. In other words, we've got to make the thing work. So I think the first thing we need to start with is what do we actually have to offer, and how much of it is let's call it saleable or rentable or something along those lines.
I
Now,
think
maybe rather than have just one or two people, I'm stuck trying to figure that out. If you circulated that part of it, perhaps we feed ideas back into Kevin or something along those lines, or into Roger or whoever else would like to have it, or Steve.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that comes from both Patrick to give us, like Kevin said, the as-built with dimensions that can be divided up. I take the length of the end dock that the dinghies are going to be pulled up on and figure out the width of a dinghy. I mean, it sounds, we're talking a 10-foot long dinghy, but most of those now are almost 10 feet wide. I know they're not, but they're getting,
They're like
They're
9.
five-
That's what I was thinking.
we're-
The same
We're
thing too,
allotted
Steve.
6
It's width
feet at
now.
South Wharf.
yeah.
Mhm.
So we've got to look at that, and that's a perennial problem because there are still some people that prefer like the Dyer Dow, which is 4 feet wide. There, you can fit 2 of those where you can fit 1 inflatable.
Yeah, it's very similar to marina when you show up with a catamaran or a monohull. So I think that's something to consider. I think TJ, preliminarily, we just kind of come up with a little subgroup to kind of present next time to be voted on, or open up to suggestions. That's why I don't want to do that immediately, because we're not sure where we're at, and it would take too long to figure that out now. But immediately, just to put out that the space is going to be available and that we intend to have this. So if you're thinking about a space, at least you can hold on to that thought and find out what the rate's going to be. So, and anybody who wants to chime in is certainly welcome to do so. My initial thought, a comment to Rogers about the rates. Personally, I'd be in favor to bumping the rates a little bit on the softer side the first year, just to make sure that how the capacity is going to be, and with the understanding that if we're full on a waiting list, that we would certainly raise the rates or possibly expand the marina. So we should
Agreed.
go. We should not exceed the number that Roger's suggesting, but creeping up a little short of that, I think, is not too bad. But we'll let
I also saw, Kevin, there's a comment from, I think, the public asking, do we have any idea of comps for what other towns are charging?
right.
Yes.
To start.
Yeah, we have, obviously, the New Bedford Yacht Club is local, Davis and Tripp is local,
Marshall Marine.
Marshall Marine, and South Wharf.
Hmm.
So we have enough locally. There's no reason to go down to Falmouth or Newport
Right.
looking for comps.
But to answer the question, we do know what they charge. I'm cognizant of both Mattapoisett and Fairhaven and Marion for costs. And as Kevin said, we're also aware of our location, and we will make this, I agree, we should make it a reasonable dinghy storage, and we should make it seasonal, and then make it reasonable price per foot. To answer TJ's comment, if I've got a 15-foot skiff, I should pay less than the guy who comes in with a 19-foot Aquasport, that kind of thing. So make it a per foot charge for people that are keeping them in the water along the sides.
Right.
I did some quick math with what we got now. We could have 7 of the inflatables easily on the end float, and you could have 7 20-foot boats along the side floats with the lineage that we have. So it's not a huge thing. We're not going to have hundreds and hundreds of.
No, it's a nice start though. It's a nice start. Maybe a lot of it, either do it by square footage too, meaning they take the length and the width of the boat and they calculate their costs that way, Or,
Sure.
I know South Wharf, it's just the spot, right, Roger?
Right.
Whether we put, it just has a maximum size you can put in it. It doesn't matter if it's a Dyer or it's an inflatable.
Right. You're absolutely right. We get a spot and we're limited. I just reread it. Only 10 feet long. No
Yep,
bigger
no
than
longer
that.
than that.
But I was down there last year. Everybody's got an inflatable. Just about. I mean, I think there's one guy that's got a little skiff, but everybody's got an inflatable.
So getting back to a little subgroup, do we have one or two guys that we can kind of come up with this division and price that we can present to the committee next meeting?
Yeah,
I'm happy to help, Kevin.
the other comparison that I think the chat question brings up is a town like Mattapoisett, where you have municipal marina and you have Mattapoisett Boatyard. If, let's say, the Mattapoisett Municipal Marina is 75% the cost of the private marina, that's a guide too, to know like what Marion charges at their municipal versus at their private marinas.
Good point. Something to
But I mean,
consider.
also, the private ones come with security a little bit. They come with other accoutrements that we're not offering either.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that our product isn't just as good or close to it.
No,
Right.
but our parking is a la carte, if you will. So that Marshall Marine, you don't pay for parking. The yacht club, you pay for membership. South Wharf, you do pay for parking. Davison Trip, you do not. So that's a factor that we need to count that
Right.
$60
I think
in.
that can get discussed within the subgroup, and we can kind of come up with a presentation at the next meeting. Okay. We want to remind me that I got something on my screen. Oh, I lost me. Damn. Am I back? Yeah, here we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, we pretty good. So Roger, you'll volunteer to do that, and myself, you and Steve will put something together in the near future and be ready to present
Well
the
done.
layout and price structure for the next meeting. Very good. All right, next on the agenda, number 7, we have a database conversion update. Steve, how are you doing with that?
That's still underway. I've been in communication with Town Moorings, and they assure me that they will be done. They're 99% done already, that we will be done in time for our billing in mid-February. And it has been rolled out in Fairhaven this week, and they've had a positive experience so far. So
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to what I hope will be a much smoother invoice, billing, and payment process than we've had in prior years.
Okay, that's certainly something that we want to get organized.
Yeah, there's something called, I'm not an online kind of guy, but there's something called Stripe, which is a payment process that they are looking to use so that when people want to pay, they no longer have to make a phone call and do it the archaic way, but
Right.
Stripe will take their payment and will attribute it properly so that we can account for and hopefully get the money that we're due. So,
This is in conjunction with the company that we hired. Is that what this is part of that you're talking about?
yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
Anybody else on this topic?
Yeah, I just want to say Stripe works very, very well. This is
Okay.
Bob Garvin.
Okay.
I'm involved with the Shrine in Fall River, and we put in Square, and they use Stripe, and it's great. You get an email saying, "Boom, this is the amount, this is the name of the person, and the email address." So I'm pretty sure it'll work very well.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Bob, and welcome to the meeting. I didn't
All right.
catch you there before.
Okay.
Clerical assistants. Steve, how are we doing with our clerical hiring?
One step forward and 2 steps back. Gary's on board. Gary was the interim acting town manager. He still is, I guess, until a contract's in place. But we lost our personnel director. So I am putting the position, I'm going to try to find a way to put it in our fiscal year 26 budget. I had removed it for 25. But I want to see if I can get that back into our budget so that we can have a permanent presence in the office, especially now while we're going through this change in the database. I've never pretended to be a computer guy, and we don't have a lot of people that can drive a boat, pump out a boat, and work a computer. That's, different.
Steve,
So
do we have anybody in the wings who'd be capable for this job?
Not that I'm aware of, because I would make it an easy hire if I could. But we haven't really put it out there yet either. And this is more of an office person than a boat person.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
And this
we're,
is,
and this would be, well, I don't know that we could start prior to, but I'd be looking at it, if it's in the fiscal year 26 budget, it'd be permanent or full-time after July. And the reason we're looking at full-time is because that was suggested by Gary Carrero when we had our meeting. Roger and I met with him earlier or late last year. So,
okay. Anybody else have anything on this subject? Okay, I guess we'll move on to number 9, the budget formation underway, due 1/17, and capital requests for FY 2026. Steve, back to you, I guess.
this took a strange twist yesterday when I got the update from the town accountant of our retained earnings. And normally about this time of year, we would be negative $2,000 because we take in our revenue after February, in March, in April, in May. We're backwards in that we bill at the end of the fiscal year because that's what fits the boating season. Well, again, we're almost always $2,000 in the hole at this time of year. We were $44,000 in the hole this year. When you look back at the history, it's real easy to find out why. We would normally have had a $42,000 infusion from boat excise tax to supplement our budget. For the 23 season, the town never issued boat excise bills. That's a total loss to the town of $84,000, half of which by law must be put into our account, $42,000. So that's why we're currently $44,000 in the hole before we send out our first bill.
Mhm.
That, to me, it makes me say, why am I even doing a budget? I count on the money. I'm legitimately supposed to count on that money. That money isn't being generated by somebody other than my department. So how do I propose a realistic budget when money that we have to rely on isn't being collected? It also takes our capital requests right out of the box because we rely on retained earnings for our capital improvements. Luckily, I have none in mind. There will be some coming up. I'm pushing it down the road again. 2 outboards for our winter rescue boat. I keep repairing and pushing those along. But at some point, it's counterproductive to keep throwing money at older, antiquated 2-stroke engines. They work, they're reliable. I keep them going. But at some point, we got to be responsible and replace them. The same with the department truck. I don't have a lot of miles on it. It's 10 years old, and I have no problems driving it, but I'm putting the second set of tires on it this month, normal wear and tear. And I'm starting to see that driving it near the salt water is taking a toll on the body.
Of course.
So it has a limited lifespan, probably another 3 or 4 years tops. And then that'll either need to be repaired or replaced.
Okay.
So, and again, you take $42,000 out of our budget now for 2 boating seasons, and that's a truck. That's 2 engines.
Yeah, this is Bob. So you're telling me that the bills didn't go out?
No, sir. No, we sent the assessor's office
Yeah.
our list of boats. The state of Massachusetts sent the assessor's office the state registered boats. It may not have bought a waterways permit from us. They may be in a yard on a trailer. And the
Yeah.
federal government sent a list of all the documented boats, documented owners in the town of Dartmouth. They
Yeah.
take those 3 lists and they combine them and they remove the overlap because somebody who has a boat on a trailer may also have gotten a waterways permit from me. So they'd appear on 2 lists. The assessor pulls the list and only they can send out tax bills. That's state law.
Yeah.
And they have,
Yeah.
Steve,
Well, let me check into that.
it's
Excuse
been,
me,
it's
Bob,
been
Let me check in.
Could I just?
You're not going
could
to
I
lose
just jump in a little bit,
$44,000.
Bob?
What's that? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Bob. Could I just jump in and give you a little background here you may or may not be aware of? A couple of months ago, Donna and myself approached the assessor's office with this issue, and we've been pressing hard. We found out that the back bills in previous fiscal years, they can be sent out. Donna was nice enough to combine a list that pretty much solved the 3-list problem that Steve is talking about. I spoke to Jessica yesterday, and she's always complained that this has been a staff problem, and it's in the hands of Randy right now. I'm not exactly sure who Randy is, but he's communicated to her that now that the property taxes have been straightened out, they're going to get right on these bills, and the 2023 bills will be sent out in the very near future. And this is something that we've been on top of for the last couple of months and are going to keep pushing until this is done, because this is a big issue, as everyone is well aware of. So, go ahead, Bob. I'll turn it back to you, Bob. I'm sorry, just wanted to bring you up to speed.
No. Thanks for the update. Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna, to Steve's point, you're not gonna lose that $44,000 because that's, a tax bill, and it'll get into your account.
But Bob, here's the
as far as-
problem.
What's up?
The problem I've got is that these boaters all last summer and in the spring were asking me, where's my excise bill? Where's my excise bill for the 23 boating season? And now that the 24 boating season is over, I'm starting to get the inquiries. Where's the tax bill for 24? So how many people are going to notice that when the bill goes out, it wasn't for last summer, it was the summer before, and then it's going to be followed up immediately by a bill for last summer? I think it's going to be more confusion than they're going to be able to handle. But anyway, that's the problem that we're in.
Okay.
Be that as it may, something will be resolved about this, and
Yeah.
this is going to be handled on at least a bi-weekly basis or a weekly basis to get some resolve on this. And I intend to get in touch with the select board chairman and remake him aware of what's going on and get this solved. Because certainly a temporary employee working on this list is far less expensive than doing without $80,000 worth of taxes. And to Steve's point, the $40,000 a year, it's really $80,000 a year. Half of it goes into the town's general fund, and Waterways gets the other half. So the town is out half of this money in the general fund. So this is just totally ridiculous, and we will get this solved.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing, I mean, there's some new forms in the budget this year, and we're starting to look at actuals, and it doesn't. We don't ask every single department to do a presentation, and I'm sure Waterways, their budget's so small that we probably won't have one unless you want one. But we're asking for goals, and we're asking for the managers to compare their actual numbers with their budget, and which in the past we pass the budget and boom, nobody ever looks at actuals. So what we're looking at more applies to the schools, because $104 million budget, 65 million is the schools. So we're much more focused on the schools. But Steve, if you have any issues about doing the new form, it's not that complicated, but just let me know and I'll go over it with you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Anything else? Go ahead, Andrea.
Steve, did you suggest that you're going to have difficulty preparing a budget because of this hole with the lack of revenues, or can't you just say that this is projected? And
that's what I do. I project the 42 as revenue because it has been for the 21 years I've been here. And then when it doesn't come through, it's almost like we over projected, but it's there. It's like you're owed the money, but no one ever collected it, or no one.
It's a receivable at this point.
So
so it's a terrible thing, but the budget will be the same.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, right now, someone right here, it's unfair to boaters who did pay the tax. Nobody has been billed. So if someone paid an excise tax, they must have paid it to another town. The town has to generate this tax. The town has to collect this tax. if a boater has paid tax, they didn't pay an excise tax because, again, no bills were sent out. I will plan my budget, which is what a budget is, a plan. I will include that money, and if it doesn't come in, then we have a shortfall. But again, we try to stay almost zero out or have a little bit extra in retained earnings. And that retained earnings is really, we're chasing our tail, because at this point, we're negative on the retained earnings. At the end of a fiscal year, when all the bills are paid and the revenue is counted, we may be a positive, and we've got to ride that positive into the next year. It would almost be great if we could get 1 year's worth of budget put in an account and we just replenish it. But instead, we're operating on a deficit. So it's.
If I could ask Bob Gavin, Bob, how was the town reconciling this $40,000 shortfall? It's not going in the general fund. Has nobody picked up on this in the FinCom or somewhere?
It's a
Well,
tiny.
what's that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
To the town, it's minuscule. It really is. To my department, it's 20%.
Yeah, we haven't met since last town. Well, we met once, last town meeting. So we're starting February 4th, actually February 6th, and we're meeting every single week. But yeah, I was unaware of this, but we'll get it cleared up.
Could you put that as an
There's
agenda item?
There's no excuse for this. There's no excuse for this.
All right, of course not. Could you put that as an agenda item on your FinCom?
Yeah,
meeting?
absolutely.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
But and we don't want to let it go anymore, because then you're going to be handing people bill after bill after bill. We're gonna have a palace revolt on our hands.
Yeah.
It'll be like if you got 2 years of real estate tax bills in your next bill.
Yeah.
People have forgotten the 23 season, and some of them, quite frankly, don't exist anymore. They've moved on or moved underground. I mean, so
Underground.
the real pain is going to be when these bills come out. They're going to be hunting me down, and I have little to nothing to do with them. But it's anticipated confusion, and it'll be valid.
Yeah, like what do you do with people who passed away, moved out of the state?
It's gone. That money is, you can't chase an estate after whatever.
After 1 year, you're done. Yeah.
Yeah, and those that have moved on to another town or another part of the country, the only leverage we have is if you don't pay your excise bill, you don't get to be moored or docked in Dartmouth. Well, if you've moved your boat to another place and you don't want to pay it, what can we do? You're already gone. So,
well, let's see if we can get it paid. Let's see if we can get the bills out, and then we'll figure out what happens after that.
Exactly.
Let's start with step one.
The bills have got to go out. That's true. Anybody else? Anything on this topic? Okay, let's move on to Steve again. The annual town. Go ahead.
Every year, the town, through the clerk's office, requests an annual town report, just a recounting of what went on in the year 2024. With Waterways, there's also a provision in the enabling legislation that creates the Waterways Commission, that the Waterways Commission shall report to the Select Board no less than once a year the state of the condition of the waterfront, the waterways. I've always relied on this annual town report as that report to the Select Board. They've never told me anything differently, but it, in my mind, constitutes the Waterways Department, that's the commission in my office, report to the Select Board and town of what took place in 2024 and what we're looking forward to for future plans. So I'm working on that, as well as the budget, as well as the billing and everything else. That's in the works. When I get that done, I'll email it out to everybody and I will send it to the town clerk. They used to publish it in a paperback book. Now I think it's just done with an online publication, but people do read it, and it does give some pretty good information out from each department.
Anything else on that item? 11, we'll move on to the Harbor Master update. Congratulations, Steve, you're up again.
Thanks. Yeah, the summer boats, which is the Orange Rescue Boat and the Pump Out Boat, and there's also a 17 whaler that we take care of in-house. but those boats have all been winterized. The orange rescue boat, the safe boat, which is only 2 years of use, is stored indoors in the water department on its trailer. And so just for clarification, I take that boat out of the water. I drive it to Westport Marine, a Yamaha dealer. They winterize, repair, service it, make it ready for next season. I fill the fuel tank on the way by DPW. I drive it down Chase Road and I back it up in one of the very large water treatment buildings that doesn't freeze and it's sheltered from the weather and the sunlight. And it sits on the trailer until I need it in the spring. And in the springtime, I will bring it home, rinse it down, charge the batteries, and launch it. We should be ready to go.
Good.
The pump out boat has been refurbished. I did the same with that. I drove it to Westport Marine for the Suzuki service, took it to the DPW to top off the tank, and then I brought it to Concordia, and I had them replace the rub rail, which was 10 years old, canvas and cushion, and it was in terrible condition. I had ordered a new rub rail from Concordia last spring, but they never got it in until this fall. So Concordia put on a new rub rail, buffed compounded the hull and waxed it and got it ready for it to be launched next year. That is in the shed, temporary shelter behind the old police station with a new rub rail on it, with new hull wax on it, winterized engine, winterized pump, and winterized washdown pump. So theoretically, that boat should be charge the batteries, rinse it down, and put it in the water next spring. And our winter boat is in operation.
Good. That sounds like that's going along fine. If I could make a couple of housekeeping things before we ask for any public comment. I know the public's not to comment. For the next meeting, I'd like to come up with if possible, a specific time that we would have meetings on a regular basis, probably monthly. Can we talk about a time of day where the meeting would be held, whether we continue with Zoom, but I'd like to kind of do regularly scheduled meetings. And that way, we know when the meetings are going to go. I'd also like to have the minutes of the meeting, whoever does those, and it looks like Andrea, a copy of those just be forwarded to the select board chairman when the minutes are complete. So just to let them know that we do meet regularly and this is what's discussed, and he can at least take a look at that and see what's moving or what's lagging. And then one last thing would be, and this is just wishful thinking, but if the members of the board, if anybody who is not doing the minutes, so to speak, or has a particular charge, if we could kind of come up with an agenda item from each person to have at the next meeting for something to talk about. So that would kind of keep the participation going at a high level. And should something be discussed and it's not resolved, then we'll keep it on the agenda for the next meeting so that we go from meeting to meeting with agenda items that are not accomplished, that they stay in the forefront and they just don't die in the wind. So those are just a couple of things I might suggest. And I guess now I'll go on to number. Does anybody have any comments on those suggestions? Don't want to get into a big kerfuffle about that now, but just kind of the things that I'm thinking about as we go along here.
Did you want the draft minutes to be sent to the chair of the select board or after they've been approved by the committee?
That's a good point. I guess it would probably be, so that puts it out 2 months old at that point, right? Is there a problem? Anybody see a problem with just sending the draft minutes?
No, I think they have to be approved, Kevin.
Okay.
I would not send a
Yeah,
draft.
you don't send drafts.
All right, so
I
then,
agree.
good point, Andrea. So after the meeting minutes are approved, we would forward that to the chairman, chairperson of the select board.
It's
And,
only a month. It's only a month lag because
Yeah.
we have a meeting. At the next meeting, there's an approval, and then it can
Right,
be sent
okay.
that day.
We can go that day. That's a good point. Okay, so I think that a good point, Andrea. Thank you. Anybody else on any of those comments? Okay, anybody of the public who's attending the meeting wish to comment? Seeing nobody, we're good. Now we'll adjourn. Next meeting.
Oh,
When would we like to have the next meeting?
The public has a question.
Yes.
It's Tom Babington from 19 Kennedy Street.
Okay, thank you for seeing the meeting.
I've been a boater in town for a number of years, probably about 30 plus. I was just
Yep.
wondering if there's any thoughts about putting a mock channel on the south side from the bridge to the landing. The reason why I ask is that I'm on that first row. My mooring is 6-1, and the boat's been hit a couple of times. I've had people run over the mooring float, and I realize that if people are drunk or people just don't care, they're never going to follow the mock channel. But we don't even give the reasonable folks a chance because there's really no mock channel there.
That's
So I
true.
just wonder if there's any thoughts about, I realize there's CapEx problems and whatnot with the budget and whatnot, but is there any thoughts about in the future, especially with the marina coming online, with more people going in and out of there? It'd be nice if there was a little bit more of a dedicated
I
mock
think
channel.
I think that's a good point, Tom. We'll certainly put that on the agenda for next meeting and give that due consideration. I think that's an important point.
Because
Especially with the marina.
my
So-
mooring, my mooring neighbors have all put like solar lights or whatever on the boat as like
Sure.
a little anchor light just to
Mhm.
give us a chance so we don't get run into. And I realize even with a mock channel, it's not going to solve the problem, but it might help.
It's a help. I agree. So I think we can.
We can certainly put that out for bid. Company like Pioneer does that for other towns. It's
Okay.
it's a cost to acquire and cost to service. And the odd thing in this, I will tell you, we have more boat strikes south of the bridge where there is a marked channel leading up to the bay than we have on the north side. But certainly, I mean, again, it's just materials and labor that we're looking at for that. And we'd have to license them, but that's paperwork, private aid to navigation licensing.
Right.
It's not overbearing.
Just
Thanks
a
for
point of,
listening.
just a point of information, Tom. I had my boat out there for 20 some odd years right on the edge of that channel, and that was always a concern of mine. So you do have some support in that regard, at least from my point of view.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the hard work too over the years.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Next meeting, can we come to a consensus on that for now? And
I'm
Does
looking, I'm primarily available Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. For right now, that's my current schedule. So
Can we
okay,
suggest a second Tuesday of the month at noon?
okay,
Yeah.
that would be the 11th.
Just second Tuesday of the month at noon.
Okay,
that's the
so,
11th.
yeah, that's fine. And
I like the concept of having a regularly scheduled something. It will make it a whole lot easier than trying to figure
Right.
out, and I can just put it in for the year and I won't put anything around it.
okay,
I don't know how everybody else can chime in on that, but I think that I don't know that it needs to be monthly if that's not the will of the body, but it would be nice if it was regularly scheduled.
So if we tentatively look at noon on the second Tuesday of each month, and if we don't need to, we don't meet, or if there's a
yep.
conflict with a holiday or whatnot,
Okay,
February
I like
11th
that.
at
Right.
noon.
so that and noontime is pretty good. That would require a posting on Friday, right? The Friday before?
It
Or
would,
Thursday
yeah.
before. The
48
Thursday.
hours. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Thursday
Monday,
before.
right before noon on Friday. So
Okay.
Thursday before.
Okay, all right. Okay, is everybody good for that for now?
For what it's worth, I'll be out of the country for that
Okay,
meeting. Going forward, I really like the idea of a consistent meeting time and day. I think that works really well.
yeah, understandably, we're really only required to have a quorum. It's nice to have as much participation as possible, but I think setting up a firm time just kind of gives everybody a heads up and
Absolutely.
know what to look forward to, so.
I
All
like
right,
it.
so let's figure Tuesday, the 11th by Zoom. And if anybody else has no more comments, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
There you go.
All those in
Second.
favor? And
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, thanks for your time, everybody.